Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today, we are going outside of Pennsylvania up to New York. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erica.
And I'm David.
Let's get into it. So today, we are finally talking about our overnight investigation at the Wildwood Sanitarium.
In New York.
In Salamanca, New
York.
Yep.
York Nor.
I'm just here to provide the facts. In Salamanca, New York. Okay.
Say it 3 times fast.
Yeah, certainly can't. Just like I can't say Wildwood Sanitarium 3 times fast. So, we have so much to get into. I'm going to start with the history. I'll run through it. You guys can add anything. You know, we did get the historical tour, so if you guys have anything to add. And then we're just going to break it down by room. The history comes directly from their website. The Wildwood Sanitarium is located in the picturesque Salamanca, New York, and it actually was really pretty. There was like a ton of skiing and stuff nearby.
Yeah, it was really nice to see that much snow, to be honest with you, like in the mountains.
Yeah. And it's right by Ellicottville, which had like a cute little main street.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think I mentioned this then, but they had a bunch of abbreviations on stuff like EVL.
Yeah.
That's an immigration term, so I was just getting like jump scared every 5 seconds.
That's funny. I just remember because my dad kept going, evil. So the sanitarium was built in 1900 exactly. In 1903, it was purchased by doctors John Henderson and Carol Perry. These doctors specialized in treatment through manipulation of bones, joints, and muscles. So this is like osteo, I guess?
Yeah.
Ortho? I don't know if it would be osteo or ortho. Both? I don't know medical.
Podiatry. Study of the feet.
Yeah, but it's not feet. It's bones, joints, and muscles.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just me throwing out the one medical term I knew.
Okay.
I was contributing.
Thank you.
No problem.
They had 3 notable nurses that worked here with them. Bertha, Agnes, and Sue. And, you know, those just sound like quintessential 1900s names to me.
Yes.
The team of 5 actually spent almost 7 years prepping the house so that there could be 12 patients full-time there. And then they also took outpatients in a bathhouse that was in the basement, which you both knew because you both saw it.
Yes.
Finally, in 1909, the building opened as a holistic private hospital. They offered some controversial treatments for the era, including ice baths, hot baths, electric battery baths, light bath therapy, and even more. And so you could go to this as a bathhouse, but they also had reserved times for the patients to go down and use the bathhouse specifically. As you can see, huge emphasis on the baths, which is going to come into play when we talk about the hauntings. The treatments were applied to a wide variety of patients, ranging from alcoholism to mental health issues to non-infectious diseases. And in fact, they have a lot of historical newspapers and artifacts there hanging on the walls. And I remember looking at some of them, and one of them said something like, "From alcoholism to leprosy, we'll treat you." And It was just crazy to me.
Yeah.
How can you be a specialist in so many fields? And how does joint manipulation tie into alcoholism? But who knows?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. There's another doctor that worked in tandem with them, Walter Freeman, and he performed lobotomies.
Oh, great.
I know. We didn't even talk about that at the overnight investigation.
No.
We love to not love a lobotomy.
Yeah. In 1923, the doctors were required to open the building as a tuberculosis sanitarium due to the pandemic that was breaking out.
Ooh, and that's definitely the way to treat tuberculosis is put a bunch of patients together.
In a bathtub together.
In a bathtub. Communal bath, maybe.
And have the public also come to the communal bath.
Love it.
Yeah.
Public health at its finest.
Yeah. I mean, it was the 1920s.
Right. You can't ask for too much.
Yeah. Doctors Henderson and Perry both passed away in 1941, which is very odd to me.
Yeah, I don't think I remember learning that there. Now, I'm not saying he didn't say it because I might have just missed it, but that is very strange that they passed away in the same year.
Yeah, I don't think he said it there. And the building was actually owned by the Henderson family, so the Perry family didn't have any claim to it, and they owned it until 1946. So an additional 5 years after he died, or after they died, rather. In the 1950s, the hospital was modified to create 3 apartments, and the building has, depends how you count it. I say 5 floors. It has the basement, the main floor, the second floor, the third floor, and an attic. But I think when it was an apartment building, it was a shared basement, and then the 3 main floors were apartments.
It took me just now a really long time to remember what each floor was because I felt like I got lost so many times. Like I would come out of a door and be like, where am I? And I don't know if everybody experienced that.
No, just I thought I had a very good handle of that building, and then other people, I'm not going to name names, just seemed to struggle a lot. Erica.
And me. I think it's because it was, okay, so it's this old house that was converted to be used for patient rooms, that was then converted to apartments, that was then converted back to one house. And that's why, because there's that kitchen on the second floor that also goes to the basement.
Yes.
And then there's the third floor that has the patient rooms. So I think, I thought it was challenging too. I know, my brother, for example, had no trouble, but I was constantly getting lost.
Yeah.
Also because the lighting wasn't the best. So I think it was easy to get kind of confused. The building functioned as apartments for 30 years, and during that time it was sold to multiple different owners. At times it even sat vacant. In 2017, the building was purchased by the Wagatha family, who are currently restoring the building and allowing paranormal investigations. And they're very passionate about this. The son-in-law of the family was there to give us the tour, and then the mom and daughter are mediums or sensitives. I can't remember what specific term he used for them. And they're very passionate about restoring it without taking away from what it is.
Yeah, which is really cool. And they know a lot about the history.
Yeah, they've definitely done a lot of research into it. That's the history. Anything that I missed that you guys noted?
Nothing for me.
Yeah, nothing for me either.
We could obviously go on and on and on because they really did have a lot of history, but I think that hits at some of the main topics. Okay, so our investigation here. First, let's start with this place is very famous. It's been on mainstream TV shows like Ghost Finders, Paranormal Lockdown, and even America's Most Terrifying Locations, which I specifically did not tell you, Erica, ahead of time.
Yeah, that was a good idea. That was a good idea. For most of the night, I did feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and that was something that was interesting when we got the tour when we first arrived, is they were saying that people don't have a lot of negative experiences there, which is interesting because it's also different from what I read in my research.
Yeah.
But let's break it down. So, do you guys want to go top to bottom or bottom to top?
I say top to bottom.
Yeah, let's start with the attic.
Okay, so I didn't go into the attic.
Me either.
David, anything noteworthy there?
It's an attic. I don't want that to come off very rude or anything. It's just a empty attic. There's nothing up there yet. I know that they mentioned that they were going to kind of finish it out some so that you could potentially go up there, but right now it's you can't do much up there.
And I didn't find in my research anything specific to the attic either. So, a creepy attic, but it's an old house and attics are creepy.
Right.
The third floor. Now this is where it just starts to shock me. So on the third floor, there are a few patient rooms and the doctor's office, and then the bathroom. And it's a very small walkway. It's just a hallway that leads at the end to the doctor's office where you can take a ladder to the attic. Across from that's the bathroom. And then at the other side, right when you come up the stairs, is where the patient rooms are for people to kind of get their bearings. And let's start with the doctor's office.
You're also forgetting, well, it's good that we're starting there because you forgot something
What did I
about the
forget?
doctor's office.
The little, like, alcove to the chimney?
Yeah, that, like, could have been storage or where Erica learned that elevators existed with potentially, like, bringing up stuff, right? Or is that something else I'm thinking of entirely?
I think that's something else you're thinking.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever an elevator.
Or, like to bring up trays and stuff. Like,
Like a dumbwaiter?
Yeah, dumbwaiter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, I think it was that they don't really know what was there.
Gotcha. Yeah, but that space was also pretty cool, pretty nifty.
Yes. So, in my research on the top floor, there are claims that there's a negative spirit up there, also the spirit of one of the doctors, and people report hearing stomping that could either be a doctor or the negative spirit. People have caught EVPs and seen objects moving on their own up here. Now, in the doctor's office, we did a few different sessions. We did a first, just like a EVP questionnaire session. We set up motion sensors, a REM pod, and we also set up cat balls throughout the room. And when I say we set up cat balls, it's important to note that these are in extremely secure locations, like a container of cotton balls. So they are not moving on their own. The motion sensors were not directly linked to anybody's movements or whatever. So we, I know some of these methods can be controversial, but we really tried to be as careful as we could. And during the questioning, I think it was multiple spirits. Do you guys think we were talking to multiple different spirits?
I do, and my reason for saying that is because on one of the things that David and I tried was to put a phone up there and just leave it for a while. And nothing happened. We actually didn't get anything from that video. But the only time that I felt uncomfortable was when we went back upstairs to go get my phone.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't remember knowing about the negative spirit. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that at the time. But I think I felt so weird that I said, David, can you come with me to get my phone? Because you guys were doing that other session.
Yeah, interesting. Because we had pretty positive interactions there. We did the 2 different question sessions. The first one, we had cat ball activity when we were asking about a doctor. Yes. And we had motion sensor activity as well when asking about the doctor, which made us think that it was Dr. Henderson.
Yes.
That was there with us.
And so that's why I was like, okay, maybe something else is here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just felt so weird.
Yeah. And I just think, I remember my dad standing against the door frame with the ladder to the attic. We had the cat ball sitting, in the hole in the ground right next to him. And he is a scientist. I mean, he believes in the paranormal, but he's a scientist at base and believes in, like, clean, structured experiments. And when that cat ball went off, the recognition in his eyes was amazing, because we were asking about the doctors and it really seemed like almost like the door was opening and a doctor was walking into the room.
Yeah.
And because then the motion sensors lighting up across the room, it's like, okay, I'm coming in, I'm getting my stuff, because all the supplies in the cabinet was at the other end of the room.
Right.
So that was the first session. Then you guys left the phone up there, captured nothing.
Right.
Then we went up for the second question session. And this is where I think we were having trouble discerning who we were talking to, because we were asking about treatments and ice baths and stuff, and we were getting yes, that their time there helped them feel better, but we couldn't really figure out who they were other than that. If they were just a patron at the bathhouse, if they were a patient, if they were a nurse, etc.
Just to expound on that, the yeses that we were getting were from cat balls.
In the cotton balls, yeah.
That were in the cotton ball container.
Yeah. And we did get REM pod activity as well in there when we were doing this session.
Was that the second session, or was that the first one where we got the REM pod?
I think it was the second one.
Okay.
Because I remember that second one, it almost seemed like someone walked across the walkway, because remember the lights went off too?
Mm-hmm. Right, and in my mind, that was multiple spirits coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
Because the answers to the questions seemed to be specific enough, like the cat ball would light up following the question, but they seemed incongruent with each other. So it was almost like multiple spirits were potentially fighting to talk to us.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess also just to be more transparent, anytime that, or any initial interaction, so like let's say a cat ball or a motion sensor went off, first thing we try to do is debunk it. Or ask, okay, so, like, Erica, you have your back on the wall. Like, take your back off the wall.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that you're not, like, you didn't set it off.
I forgot that cat ball lit up behind you while you were sitting on the exam table.
That's why I'm bringing it up, because he didn't mention it.
Yeah.
And it was like in the stethoscope.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I'm a patient.
It was very secure, yeah. And I remember you even, like, banged your back against the wall, and it didn't set it off.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things that we did throughout this investigation is once we placed a cat ball, so how much force does it take, or how much like interaction with what it's on does it take to actually set it off through us? Usually we found that it came with a lot of force that had to be applied, like banging my hand against the cotton ball container fairly hard.
Yeah, the goal was to get it as close to 0 as possible, as if we could not actually make it light up.
Yeah.
We also did an SD session here. Erica, you did the SD session. What can you tell us about your experience with that?
Can we start with explaining what the SD session is? Just for the listeners that do not know what that is.
Yes. So an SD session, it leverages sensory deprivation, to tune in to the spirits better. So what you do is you close your eyes and or blindfold yourself, and you put in noise-canceling headphones hooked up to a spirit box. Everyone else in the room is conducting a question session, and the person doing the SD session is just calling out words that they're hearing through the spirit box. So the idea is it's eliminating bias. And you can also do SD sessions without the question part and just have the person listening to the spirit box. But we did it more as like a question, hoping that answers would come through in the SD session.
Yeah. And there was an exam table in the room, and I, with the headphones on and everything, sat on the exam table, thinking that maybe that would connect me a little bit more to whoever might be in the room. But I didn't really get a lot, I think some of the things that were coming through definitely sounded like radio. And other things that were coming through that may not have been radio were way too short for me to understand anything. Like, it was like a blip. It wasn't even a word or even like a syllable. It was like a blip of a noise. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really get anything there. I know that we had activity earlier in the night, but it may have just been that there wasn't, maybe the spirits were done interacting with us at that point.
Right, because this was the second to last thing we did.
Yeah, so it was late.
It was late, and, we definitely had some, again, confusing, not even confusing, just multiple spirits vying for our attention, we think, which I could see making an SD session challenging. And another thing that we talked about throughout the night, we had 7 people there total, and throughout the night we were discussing how the energy was palpable. Yeah. You could really tell if there was something in the room with us interacting. And that's not even to be like, ooh, it's just there's so much energy at this place. You could feel it. And when we were doing the SD session, I mean, you couldn't hear us, but we were all like, it just doesn't feel like anything wants to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we ended up moving on from it.
Yeah, it almost felt like there was something there. And then it's like, you people were boring. And like left. Yeah. Because it just felt like it felt different in the room very suddenly. Like very empty in a way.
Yeah, I mean it literally could have been that the doctor was like doing other work in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like he may only spend a certain amount of a portion of time in that office and maybe had left at that point.
Yeah. I was like, maybe it's just after hours,
Yeah.
And honestly, kudos to you for sitting on the exam table, because they had like the stirrups and stuff, and I, being pregnant, was way too, like, I don't know.
Gynecological exam.
I was too superstitious to sit on there. I was like, I can't bring myself to do it.
Well, that's fair, yeah.
Because I was like, maybe it'll help with interaction because, like, I'm a pregnant patient, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I was happy that you did that for us. Every time we were in there, even.
No,
I
that's
know.
okay, just risk your child.
The one time I was holding the baby doll, and I think that's when the one went off behind me.
That makes sense.
So I was like, yeah, there was this baby doll outside of the room on a stool. So I just grabbed it to be like, all right, well, if I'm going to sit on the exam table.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything in the bathroom up there, and we tried one of the additional patient rooms. We didn't get any activity. Again, everybody was not really feeling it. So we didn't do much else on that floor. Any other commentary on the 3rd floor? Anything that I missed?
Nothing that I can think of.
So down to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor has a few rooms of interest that are famous at the location. They have the doll room here, which is known to be haunted. We didn't really spend time there, but I did research it. It's also known as Linda's room, and it's known to be incredibly active with EMF readers and spirit boxes. Some of the dolls have been known to fly off the shelves on their own or move around. When psychics have investigated, they found that this woman named Linda inhabits it. That's how it gets its name. And allegedly, she died in the sanitarium from severely burned legs caused by an overturned kerosene lamp.
Oh, that's terrifying.
That's a tough way to go.
Yeah.
And she is said to engage very well with REM pods.
Oh, yeah. I guess we didn't really put equipment in that room.
No, but what's interesting about the fact that Linda burned is that heater was right there, and it was making strange noises all night and scaring us, remember?
Oh my God, yeah. I thought, am I about to die from a house exploding?
No.
And then, and that's not any comment on the safety of this sanitary, of this kind of like preserved place. They do a really good job of upkeeping it. But that's just a comment on me hearing a heater make weird noises.
Yeah.
A heater that you're unfamiliar with in particular.
Yes.
That everybody else knows is safe, but you.
Yes.
Kind of deal. Yeah, we didn't spend much time in that room, but I also, like, when I walked in there, I'm not, like, gifted or anything in this regard, but it didn't feel like there was really anything in there.
I agree.
Yes.
Given how supercharged the other rooms were, like the doctor's office, I think we really quickly, as a group, without even explicitly discussing it, were able to narrow down where we wanted to spend our time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's not us discrediting that room or anything. It just, this time around it was not active, or we were just not getting the interactions.
And honestly, it's a huge house. You have to narrow it down somehow.
Yes. And I think this could be like a classic case of like, spirits interact with people that they feel comfortable with, that they want to interact with. And so Linda may just have not felt comfortable interacting with us. We don't know how big the other paranormal groups have been, right? Like maybe our group was too big and Linda was like, I'm not really vibing with this.
Yeah, or just even the makeup of the groups.
Yeah, exactly.
Who really knows? Also on
Linda knows.
Yeah, Linda does know. Also on that floor, there was a kitchen that connected to the basement. We didn't do anything paranormal there. There were Ouija boards in there, but I think only my stepmom touched one.
Correct.
Yeah, no interaction from me on that front.
I was not going to touch one of those.
No, I don't mess with Ouija boards. And then there was also the seance room, where we did try to do an EVP session and a cat ball session. And again, not much activity there. We had some cat balls lighting up, but I think we weren't able to definitively debunk.
Well, definitively, like, say it was paranormal. Because there was enough, like, movement that could be attributed to it that it, like us, human beings, moving around.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
yeah.
We don't like to make claims unless we can say 100% for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that room was a little bit harder to find, like, secure locations for the cat balls anyways.
Yeah.
And was freezing.
Yes, it really was freezing.
And I don't know if that was paranormal. I think it was just in general freezing, because multiple times throughout the night I got weird cold chills, and I think I tried to call them out a few times because I was like, I'm just gonna say this because this is what I'm feeling. But I kind of in that room just felt like it was constant, like that was just the air.
Erica's cold.
No, but that was a trend throughout the night. Erica is correct. Is people would get overcome with these cold sensations that seemed unnatural. And I think we were talking about potential causes for it, and we thought the ice bath could have been one of the associations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree there were definitely sudden spurts of cold. We also realized that like we might want to get like a more air-based temperature reader rather than a gun that it reads like surfaces.
Yeah.
Because that made it a lot harder to distinguish, like, well, the surface there is, cold. No one's been sitting on or anything, but that doesn't explain the air temperature around me.
Yeah, I agree. What's strange, though, is not everybody got those cold sensations. I didn't get it once throughout the night. But I know my brother did, and both of you.
Yeah.
And very strange to me. Also on the second floor, we had the library, which we didn't spend a ton of time in, and then Tommy's room, where we did spend time. So Tommy's room is meant for a little boy, and shadow figures are often seen here, and voices are often heard. Sometimes people even feel like they're being scratched here. And we ended up coming up here for a EVP/cat ball session because we had been interacting with what we thought was a child spirit down on the first floor. And the spirit seemed to particularly like to talk to my brother. So we went up to Tommy's room and we were trying to get it to engage, but we didn't have any luck there. And we even tried to point out toys and try to, get some interest that way, but no luck. Did you guys have any other experiences on the second floor?
No, when I was in the room with you guys, when your brother was communicating or, trying to communicate with possibly Tommy's spirit, I also didn't really feel anything again. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you experienced that too, but I just it fell flat.
Yeah, it felt like in between to me. It wasn't as if it was nothing, but it almost felt like something was shy. And that's why I was trying to let Tyler do the talking, because he had had so much success. And I think we garnered that it was somehow associated with the railroad.
Yeah.
But we couldn't figure out if it was that they came here on a train, that they worked for a railroad, or what had happened. But Tommy was believed to have lived there when it was the apartment buildings. And I think we had a lot more success communicating with spirits from the bathhouse sanitarium era.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
So going down to the first floor, there's the bathroom, the gift shop, a kitchen, the entryway. It's more of, I'll call it like the practical space where people that are staying overnight or, coming for investigations can set up. But the front room was used for viewings when people died at the sanitarium. And we used that room a few ways. That's the first room that we started in. That's where we were able to talk to the spirit of the little boy using the spirit box and some cat balls. And we also did an Estes session in there. Were either of you there for that Estes session?
No, that's when we went and retrieved on the third floor.
Okay. So I was the one that was sensory deprived for this one. And I'll do my best to, recount what the family told me. I was laying in the spot where they used to put the caskets because I'm a full believer, like you said, Erica. It's like, if you're going to do it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because, when you're doing this, you just start right away. It's like if something comes through, you're just going to scream it out. You don't even know if the people in the room have started asking questions. And sure enough, my brother was saying, hi, doing the intro that we always do. Hi, my name's Tyler. I'm here with my dad. I'm here with my mom. And that's when I guess I yelled out, no, very loudly. And Yeah, did you not know that?
No.
And that's really interesting because my stepmom has been in our lives, for a really long time. So to say mom for the sake of simplicity is not out of the question, but she is not our biological mom. And, obviously I've talked about my mom on the podcast. And so it's like the spirit knew right away. Like, no, that's not your mom. Which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
And very interesting. So they said that's how it started. Also, they did believe that they were talking to, a spirit that had been there, but there were strange things that didn't make sense, like lemons and yellow kept coming through, and we couldn't really figure out what that was tied to. After, I ended the session, we were trying to look around the room and find something of significance, but we couldn't really, so that one was more disjointed. Definitely the mom and the no thing was significant, I think. Now, the best part that we've all been waiting to talk about, I know. The basement. Where do we even begin?
I don't even
Probably
know.
in the basement.
maybe we go, you know what's crazy about it is I think every time we went down there, it literally got crazy. Like, crazier things happened. So maybe we just go in order of like session 1, session 2, because I don't know. Your dad several times said if I was not there, I would not have believed this.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Oh, 100%.
So
let me start, I guess, with like the research on it.
Yeah, and then paint us the scene. What does it look like? How do we get into the basement?
Okay. So the basement is known to house negative spirits. So I was actually like kind of quaking in my boots to spend so much time down there because a lot of things I've read have said that it was a very negative spirit that just wants people to leave, and we spent a lot of time down there. Spirits have been captured in EVPs saying that they want people out or even threatening people.
Jeez.
I don't see anywhere that actual harm has ever been caused, but in most cases, people just left after being prompted to. People also report hearing clapping down here, which is an interesting behavior for a ghost in the bathhouse section of a sanitarium. I don't know what could be clapping. I was wondering if it's the sound of feet, like wet feet slapping, maybe.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. People also report that they hear a man roaming the hall in chains, but nobody really knows who he is or what that is. And I was thinking maybe they had to tie up some prisoners.
Yeah.
Or not prisoners, patients.
Possibly, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Oh, could it have been like, instead of someone dragging around chains, maybe they like opened the bathhouse? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they closed the bathhouse with like old-timey chains or a gate or something that may have made chain sounds.
Maybe. I was thinking that, or like blocks of ice or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be something else. So that's the research. So let's start session 1.
So how do we... Let's set the stage a little bit for how this basement is.
Okay. So there's 2 entrances to the basement. One of them goes to the second floor kitchen, and one of them goes to the first floor kitchen.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a horseshoe between those 2 staircases. So when you come down from the first floor kitchen, there's a sewing machine and some other like old artifacts kind of in like a rectangle type room. At the end of that rectangle room, there's actually a bath and a lip in the ground from where, the bathhouse was. And then there's an offshoot to the left of that, which has like HVAC stuff. There's an additional room to the right, again, like right at the end by the bath. And in there was an embalming table and some chairs and stuff. And then the staircase up to the second floor kitchen.
Quick correction. Just the reverse.
Okay. Either way. So the staircase is to what floor is reversed. But
yes,
the layout is that. So it's kind of like a T. If you're standing at the bottom of the T, you're standing at the sewing machine. Bath is at the top of the T. Left of the T is HVAC. Right of the T is embalming table. So what we did was we decided, to sit around and do a cat ball session because that had really, really been working. But because we were in the basement, we wanted to be really specific about where we were putting the cat balls. Again, we wanted to make sure that they could not move. And was it the first session that we did the sewing machine?
No.
Yes.
No, I think you're right. I think we sat in a circle the first session.
Yes.
Did anything happen?
I think a couple cat balls went off, and that was the start of me feeling the cold spots.
Yes. That's why we attributed it to the ice bath, because we were getting some engagement, and you and Tyler, and I think Lorraine and Britt were getting these cold spells.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't know how, I think David's right. I think we need an air thermometer to really be able to prove this, but, like, I cannot explain really in depth, I guess, but, like, it wasn't just regular cold.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I don't know how to explain it because the whole house was pretty cold. So, that's important to note, but it was different.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you guys would all say it like in tandem.
Yeah.
Almost as if it was like a wave traveling through. So that was the first session. The second session, we decided to spread out more because we had sat in, a circle kind of by the HVAC stuff. And we wanted to spread out, see if we could get more engagement. And so for this one, my brother and I sat by the sewing machine. And then you guys were, I think, just staggered throughout like the length of the room. And then my stepmom and cousin sat to the left offshoot of the T. And we were getting engagement with the cat ball. And what we did, I should note where it was. It was in like the crook of the sewing machine. And we tried jumping. We tried moving slamming our chairs into the ground. Nothing was making it going off. Even just hitting the sewing machine itself didn't make the cat ball go off. You had to like slam your fist right next to it. Okay. None of the chairs were touching the sewing machine. There was at least a foot behind me and my brother between the sewing machine and us, but we could see the cat ball. So we got some activity with that cat ball, and we were trying to discern who we were talking to. We weren't getting any responses when we were asking questions related to the actual sanitarium, but something that they had told us is that we should keep an eye out because sometimes spirits associated with people come through. So what we did is we went through one by one, and I was just kind of leading the questions. So I would say, is it someone from my family? Is it someone from Tyler's family? And I was trying to be really specific, even though, a lot of the people there are family. And we narrowed it down to it was someone that knew my stepmom. And we were asking, are you family? No. Success with that. But it was someone that knew her as a friend. It wasn't someone that went to school with her. And it wasn't someone that knew my cousin, which is her niece. So that narrowed it down a lot. And we were able to discern, at least we think, who could say for sure, that it was her friend who passed away from breast cancer a few years ago that had come through. Because through the questions and the lighting up of the cat ball, again, where you're able to narrow it down. Anything else to add about that session?
Was that the same one as when, like, the cat balls were going off in different... That was another session.
That's the third one, yeah.
Then no.
Anything else, David, about the second one?
That was I think the start.
That's when we really felt like we had something, I think. Because the questions were so specific and really told a story together versus when we were up in the doctor's office, like we've said, it was less, logical. Okay, so third session. Go ahead. Tell us about the setup.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the setup. We had different cat balls now, not just near the sewing machine, but we were all kind of positioned the same way as we were when we were asking the questions at the sewing machine. But the cat balls were spread out, so we had one at the top of the T. We had one next to me, kind of in the middle of the straight line down of the T. We had a few, I think, to the HVAC, right?
Yeah.
There was like one in the lower lip of the bath portion. And I think that was it.
And then one on the wall of the bath. There was like that ledge.
Yes. And so we all kind of this time took turns asking questions. And the crazy part was the person who asked the questions, the cat ball closest to them would go off if the spirit decided to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, keyword. If it was a question they wanted to answer.
Yeah, if
Yes.
the answer was yes, then it lit up the cat ball by whoever asked the question. Which was just honestly mind-blowing to see. I wouldn't believe it if I wasn't there. I mean, I'm sharing these stories for this episode going, are people just going to listen to this and say this is complete BS?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was amazing because it would be like, and it would even, the spirit was even taking into account how people were sitting, because we had the cat ball on the wall by the bath at the top of the T, and then like Erica said, the one by the lip, but my stepmom was sitting a little further to the left of the top of the T than my dad was. So if my dad asked a question, it would light up the one on the wall, and if my stepmom did, it would light up the one on the lip because of the difference in the area. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I have never seen anything like it. And we were asking about care at the sanitarium. Again, it seemed like it was a patient, a user of the baths that we were talking to. We were hoping, again, to get to talk to Jackie, just because that's cool, someone that we know, or that anybody else we know came through, but this seemed specific to the sanitarium.
Yeah, and that session was the one where, like, a cat ball on the ledge over at the top of the T went off, and then I got a cold chill, and then the one on the other side of me went off, and I was like, well,
Yes.
that was a little crazy.
Yeah, did someone just walk right through you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else to add about that session?
Yes, I do. So one of the things that I am a bit skeptical on is, while we were all feeling these cold plunges in like temperature on occasion, that's where my skepticism comes out a little bit, only because we didn't have any way to verify it.
I agree with that. I mean, I
Yes.
can't speak to it because I never felt one.
And,
But I mean,
and I did locate, like, there were certain areas that did have drafts coming in. Because in the basement, from what you described, you didn't really mention that there's another room that we did not, or that looked like it was closed off for access to other people.
oh, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And so there was a hole, which I assume there must have been glass there or something at some point, but like about the size of like a small window, kind of at the top, that there was a really cold air coming through there. So that can account for some of it.
Yeah.
But some of it, like where some people were sitting, it's harder to explain that. But that's the only thing that I'm like really meh on.
Well, I think it's fine to say this happened. We think it could be paranormal, but we don't know for sure.
Right.
Right. Like just to be clear. Yeah, it could have been paranormal. But at the same time, I have to be a little bit skeptical on sometimes.
Sure.
Like, were we just feeling a good draft that came in?
So the last thing we did before we left was a final Estes session. And because I had had decent success in the wake room, like the funeral room, I decided to do it on the embalming table in the basement.
But not before we tested it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not before we tested that it was sturdy. But from my perspective, I'll just give it real fast, I thought it was terrible because there were such long pauses where nothing was coming through. I thought, it's the end of the night, we just need to leave. Nothing's happening because, again, my eyes are closed and I can't hear anything. But you guys had quite a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to start out, we put cat balls around the room. And here's the only thing about, like, the location of the cat balls. They were in spots on the floor that felt like fairly secure. Unfortunately, it wasn't as good as like the notch in the sewing table, but we ended up laying out multiple cat balls, and so we sat down and introduced ourselves and started getting some very fun responses. So to start, gosh, we were asking if anybody was there, if somebody was there, could you touch one of the balls that are on the floor? And initially, the one that was behind myself and Sarah's brother lit up. I were like, oh, okay, so did somebody come in? Welcome. And then another ball in front of us lit up. And from there, we started, kind of asking some questions. And gosh, almost wish I re-reviewed the video again.
There was, I know, something that I kept calling out was like hide or find.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was later in it.
Yes. To start out with, I think we were trying to ask like identifying questions. Like at some point there was like an uncle that was coming through. Mm-hmm. Or somebody was saying their uncle worked at the building kind of thing.
Yes.
I think, David, that's what you're talking about, right? Like when we were starting the identifier questions.
Right at the start where we, found that Sarah called out uncle.
Yes.
Uncle John, yeah.
Uncle John, that's correct. And so, we tried to like go into that, well, what's your name or anything else. When we didn't get a name from whatever was speaking with us at the time.
But you guys were able to discern that you thought it was a child.
Yes, because then after we started probing a little bit more, the cat balls were going off like it was like a Christmas display. I don't know how else to say that, but like it was like one was going off and then after that it was almost like this child was kind of like racing across the room and hitting the other one and then racing across the room and hitting the other one. Like it was like one after the other kept going off.
I honestly, because it was completely dark, I'm surprised that I couldn't see anything flashing.
Yeah.
Because the way you guys all described it is like it was so bright, but I really couldn't see anything.
Yeah, and so as we were asking questions, you started calling out Sarah, like find, and but like find what? Like seek out. So we're like seek out what? Seek out you? Yes.
Yeah, I said me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah, and so we were like, okay, you want us to come find you, and from my perspective, this is where my heart rate went up a little bit because I'm like, this is, everyone's like, oh, it's a child ghost, and it's like, come find me, split up, come find me alone. I'm like, I'm not so sure we will like. I'm not feeling this so much.
Well, because also right in the middle of what we ended up thinking was like a hide and seek game, if we were talking to a child, somebody came through and said, behave.
So at the start, I don't know if we were playing hide and seek at that point, but we were, getting some answers. And then, that's when Sarah said, behave. And it's like the energy in the room felt like it shifted.
Yeah.
And did the cat ball stop going off?
The cat balls stopped going off briefly. And then your dad came in and was like, it's okay. You're not in trouble. You can come talk to us. And then we started getting interaction again.
And once the little kids started interacting again, what happened? More cat balls?
We had more cat balls, but as you were starting to say, like the find, we started to think that we might be playing a game. And so that's when we assumed it was like hide and seek, like come find me.
And I remember that my dad even said that he said something like, you're really good at this game. And then I yelled out, thank you.
Yep. That was the last thing.
That was the final thing.
And that's when we all went,
yeah, that's when everybody collectively lost it. And it's like, oh, we should have kept going. But
I hadn't heard anything the whole time. Again, here I am thinking, these words make no sense. And, there would be such long pauses where during the pauses, I'm guessing the cat balls were lighting up, but to me, nothing was happening.
Right.
So I'm thinking, this is terrible. And then after I say thank you, I hear you all make a noise. I can't figure out what the noise is. And I'm like, they're sitting there like, this is stupid. We're wasting our time. So I sat up, and as soon as I sat up, everyone was like, no.
Yeah. As we were playing the game, we started calling out locations to see if we were correctly finding it. I think we were playing it incorrectly. I think the child wanted us to go find them
Yeah.
Like physically get up and walk around.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that just was not going to be my cup of tea for that evening, to be
Yeah.
honest. Because
If
again,
you guys left me there, I would have lost it.
well,
well,
yeah.
there's that, and then there's also, again, is it a child? Then is it a child ghost? Like, is it the spirit of
Right.
a child, or is it something? Because if the basement held a bunch of malicious things, is it something that's trying to get us alone for a reason, right? Like with not good intention. That
Yeah.
was not lost on me, but eventually, we're not getting interaction, and so your dad again comes in with a very awesome idea, and says, come out wherever you are. And that is when every ball in the room went off.
Yeah.
And didn't I say ready?
Yes, I think you said that as well, to like indicate that the game is starting.
Well, no, because it's ready or not. What do you say for hide and go seek? It's
Ready
like,
or not, here I come.
ready or not, here I come. Come out wherever you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's the phrasing.
And so then your dad said, you're really good at this. And that's when you like immediately fired back with thank you.
Ugh,
Which
I
was
wish I
crazy.
didn't sit up.
Yeah, we probably would have like collected ourselves and then kept going more.
I know. I think we all did a really good job of not really reacting other than asking more questions until we hit that point. Like, once we hit that question, it was like, oh my God.
It's just so amazing. And I know we do have some, footage of it. And I know that, I'm planning to compile the footage to make it into a YouTube video. So if you're listening to this episode, you'll be able to watch footage as well in a separate video that'll be coming down the line. But it just is amazing to me that you could not only identify the spirit, identify that someone was, chastising the spirit, and engage in a game with it in a way where every single answer made sense. And the cat balls were lighting up in conjunction.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I hadn't been the one doing the SD session so I could have seen it.
Right.
But it's just amazing.
And so the only thing that, because of how the cat balls were going off, I find it a lot harder. But, part of me is like, well, we didn't have them as secure as, like, say, like the table.
Was anyone moving?
No. Well, I mean, like, there was, like, flinches, certainly. But no, I don't think anybody was, like, really moving their legs. Nobody was, like, pounding their legs or bouncing their legs.
Right.
Nothing along those lines.
Right. And while it's, of course, important to be skeptical, and again, I wasn't watching, so I don't know, those do take physical exertion to turn on. And I know at least one, because I have a video of it lighting up, was in a divot in the ground.
Yeah.
Like the one that was right by the embalming table.
Right. And so that I tried to find, like, spots like that.
Yeah, which is good.
But again, just trying to be as transparent as possible.
Of course.
But that being said, like, there was just so much happening that just coincided too much.
Right, and it was just an amazing way to end. I mean, the only negative is because I sat up so fast. My dad brought up a good point. He said, we didn't really say goodbye to that spirit, which is sad. One, it's proper form to close communication. But two, if it's this little boy that was excited to play with us, we were just like, okay, bye. Thanks for playing hide and go seek. Bye.
Well, your brother and I, we did, when we went upstairs to, like, turn the lights off, we were saying goodbye as we went down.
Which is good, yeah. But after that SD session, we weren't going to top that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And so we decided, to leave. And we debriefed a bit that night. We debriefed more at breakfast. But everyone pretty much had the same sense that it was a really, really active night. Lots of yes or no with the cat balls. Some spirit box activity, of course, more in the SD sessions. I'll say minimal REM pod and motion sensor activity. No EMF activity that I could
No.
find. And I also didn't capture any photographic abnormalities or any abnormalities on videos, which is kind of strange because shadow figures is a huge report at this site, but none of us saw any.
No.
To be fair, though, a lot of the video that we did shoot was in the pitch black. It would have been very difficult to, like, pick out a shadow figure.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That is
So
fair.
even when Erica and I set up the camera in the doctor's office, we left the lights off to see that if there would be any further interaction with, the cat balls or tripping the motion sensor or the
REM pod.
Thank you. I always forget the name of that one. I'm so bad with it. But so unfortunately, like, it was still so dark in that room that unless like it was tripped, you know, like a motion sensor was tripped and we saw the shadow figure from that, I don't think we would have seen it just because of how dark it is.
Yeah. Overall, an incredible investigation. I really don't know if I would believe it if I wasn't there.
Yeah, agreed.
It was just amazing. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, we've done multiple investigations and never had that much success.
Right.
And I would personally love to go back.
I'd like to go back as well. I know your family would like to go back as well. I also like the town and the area.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, you could really make a trip of it.
Yeah, do some winter sporting stuff too.
Well, maybe not that, but...
Yeah, I don't know how to ski.
Well, see, you're going to learn.
So if you've been to Wildwood, you know, there's tons of accounts, but we'd love to hear anything that you have to say. Do you think it's haunted? Do you think it's all fake? Like I said, we're hoping to stitch together some of the footage of that night and make a longer YouTube video so that everybody can see what we're seeing. We really want to be transparent about this. I hope you can tell from the way we're talking about it. We're trying to be skeptical. We don't want to perpetuate anything that we don't believe is true. And we do all fully understand how incredible it sounds, what we're telling you. So hopefully once we can get that footage stitched together, you guys can watch it and get a little bit of a sense of what we got to experience that night.
Right, because we've ruined paranormal investigations for your family.
100%. That was the peak, and now they're going to be disappointed forever. But thank you so much for tuning in for this week's episode and bearing with us. It was a long one, but it is worth it to hear about this investigation. Tune in next Thursday to see what history and hauntings we discuss next. Stay spooky, my friends.